Recording in progress.
Good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Personalized Medical Implant Workshop taking place in the Indosat Auditorium on the second floor of the Interdisciplinary Engineering Building, Faculty of Engineering Universitas Indonesia. We are honored to welcome esteemed leaders, professors, and researchers who continue to drive innovation in technology, research, and medical engineering. Jointly organized by Universitas Indonesia, University of Melbourne, and Institut Teknologi Bandung, this workshop builds a strong tradition of academic exchange and collaborative research, reflecting our shared commitment to turning scientific breakthrough into practical real-world solutions. This initiative aligns with Prime Step, the strategic program of Indonesia Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Technology, designed to accelerate research translation, foster innovation, and enhance national competitiveness. It is also support Indonesia's roadmap for the advanced manufacturing and a resilient health technology system. Through this workshop, we hope to spark new ideas, strengthen partnerships, and pave the way for innovations that benefit both the medical field and society at large. Before we begin, it is my pleasure to recognize and warmly welcome our honored guest, Professor Dr. Hamdi Muluk MSI, Vice Rector for Research and Innovation, Universitas Indonesia, Professor Kemas Ridwan Kurniawan, STMSC PhD, Dean of the Faculty of Engineering Universitas Indonesia, Professor Sanika Karuna Sekara, Deputy Dean Academic, Faculty of Engineering and Information Technology, University of Melbourne, Professor Apotheker Rani Sauriasari, M.Med. SCI PhD, Director of Research Funding and Ecosystem, Dr. Hairul Hudaya, STMM PhD, Director of Innovation and High Impact Research, Professor Dr. Insinyur Widodo Wahyu Purwanto DEA, Head of Interdisciplinary Engineering Research Unit, Professor Dr. Insinyur Ahmad Herawan Yuwono MPhil Eng, Vice Head of Interdisciplinary Engineering Research Unit, Dr. Muhammad Sahlan SSIM Director of Institute for Biosystem and Bioengineering, Dr. Siti Fauzia Rahman STM PhD, Head of Research Center for Biomedical Engineering. We also extend our warm welcome to our keynote speakers and panelists, Dr. Fauzan Aziman STMA, Director General of Research and Development, Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Technology, Indonesia. Dr. Jeffrey Ardianto MAPSC, Director of Pharmaceutical and Medical Device Resilience, Ministry of Health Indonesia, Professor David Aklan, researcher from the University of Melbourne, Dr. Yogi Prabowo, surgeon from Universitas Indonesia. And of course, we appreciate the contribution of our distinguished moderators, Professor Yudan Wulanza from Universitas Indonesia, Professor Peter Lee from University of Melbourne. Thank you for joining us and lending your support to this important event. Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, here is today's program flow. First, we will have the opening remarks, and next we will have the keynote presentation. We will then continue to the panel discussion, and then we will have a lunch break before the laboratory visit. After that, we will have the scientific sessions on material manufacturing and biomechanics. And after that, we will have closing and networking session. We hope you enjoy the program we prepared for you today. So, for the ladies and gentlemen, let us begin our program with a brief safety induction video.
Selamat datang di Fakultas Teknik Universitas Indonesia. Saat ini Anda sedang berada di gedung Interdisciplinary Engineering. Sebelum melakukan aktivitas di gedung ini, penting untuk kita mengetahui prosedur keselamatan apabila terjadi keadaan darurat. Setiap lantai pada gedung IDE terdapat 2 tangga darurat untuk evakuasi. Gedung IDE telah dilengkapi fasilitas keselamatan yang cukup lengkap. Ada hydrant, alarm kebakaran, alat pemadam api ringan atau APAR, smoke detector, sprinkler. Apabila terjadi kebakaran, alarm bahaya akan berbunyi. Tetap tenang dan jangan panik. Jika Anda berada di dekat alat pemadam api ringan atau APAR, segera gunakan. Tarik pin pengaman, tekan tuas APAR untuk menyemprotkan, Sapukan nozzle selang dari sisi ke sisi hingga api padam. Apabila terjadi gempa, mohon tetap tenang dan perhatikan ruangan sekitar Anda. Segera lakukan metode drop, cover, and hold on, lalu berlindung di bawah meja atau kursi untuk melindungi kepala dan badan sampai gempa benar-benar berhenti. Hindari area kaca dan benda menggantung. Tunggu petugas mengevakuasi dan mengarahkan sampai akses pintu darurat. Dilarang menggunakan lift untuk menuju area evakuasi. Setelah keluar dari gedung, terus ikuti petugas menuju titik kumpul.
Next, we will have opening remarks from Universitas Indonesia. It is my pleasure to invite Professor Dr. Hamdi Muluk, MSI, Vice Rector for Research and Innovation, Universitas Indonesia, to deliver his remarks.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi buat kita semua. May peace be upon all of us. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Good afternoon. Kok good afternoon ya? Good morning. Okay, good morning, distinguished guests, esteemed partner, colleagues and friends. With great pleasure and honors, I warmly welcome you all to the personalized medical implant workshop, establishing a national advancement manufacturing network for personalized implant technology, held here at the interdisciplinary building of the Faculty of Engineering, Universitas Indonesia. First, let me greet honorable guest today. The first Director General of Research and Development, Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Technology, Bapak Dr. Fauzan Aziman, STMN. Selamat datang, Pak. Director of Pharmaceutical Medical Device Resilient, Ministry of Health in Indonesia, Dr. Jeffrey, Dokter Pak ya? Dokter Pak ya? Jeffrey Ardianto, Master of Science. Dean of Faculty of Engineering, Profesor Kemas Ridwan Kurniawan, Deputy Dean Academic, Faculty of Engineering and Information Technology, University of Melbourne, Professor Sanika Karuna Sekera, is it correct? Yeah. Director of Research Funding and Ecosystem, Universitas Indonesia, Profesor Apoteker Rani Sauria Sari. I always misspell, as Surya. Forgive me, Professor Rani. Director of High Impact Innovation and Research, Universitas Indonesia, Pak Khairul belum datang ya? Not coming yet. Okay. Head of Interdisciplinary Engineering Research Unit, Profesor Widodo Wahyu Purwanto. Vice Head of Interdisciplinary Engineering Research, Profesor Dr. Insinyur Ahmad Herwan Yono. Oh, udah ada. Director of Institute for Biosystem and Bioengineering, Dr. Muhammad Sahlan. Oh, udah ada tadi. Oke. Head of Research Center for Biomedical Engineering, Universitas Indonesia, Ibu Siti Fauzia Arhaman, PhD. Udah ada ya. So, all of our distinguished researcher from RCBE, IBBE, FTOE, and all esteemed guests today. First and foremost, let us express our deepest gratitude to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, the God Almighty, for granting us for the opportunity to gather today in the good health and high spirits. I think this workshop marks an important milestone in our shared journey to advance science, technology, and healthcare through innovation in personalized medical implants. As psychologist, I'm very happy with this title, because personalized. It means psychological. Yeah, should be personalized. Uh, Today's society demand us for everything is personalized. So this theme underscore the growing importance of personalized implant as a key component of the future healthcare, offering solutions that are most effective, patient specific, and aligned with the principle of precision medicine. This transformation is being made possible through the rapid expansion in the additive manufacturing, with open new frontier in the creating patient-specific medical solution. Around the world, the market for personalized medical implants is expanding rapidly, reflecting the urgent demand for patient-specific treatment that improve outcomes and reduce costs. Indonesia, with its vibrant biomedical engineering community and talented young engineers, is well positioned to become a key player in this global movement. Now, I imagine a patient whose joint replacement is not only a perfect fit but can be produced locally within days, dramatically reduce recovery time and expense. This is the promise that personalized implant technology bring to our society. I sincerely hope that this program will not only serve as a platform for sharing knowledge and research, but also strengthen collaboration, inspiring innovation, encourage young researchers to contribute meaningfully to the future of biomedical engineering. Jointly organized by Universitas Indonesia, Institut Teknologi Bandung, and the University of Melbourne, this initiative built on history of academic exchange and joint research between our institution and represent a significant step forward in accelerating an innovation ecosystem that benefit governance, academia, industry, clinician, consumer, and society at large. It embodies a collaborating spirit that bridges science, technology, and clinical practices, transforming research into impactful real-world solution. Moreover, this effort is fully aligned with the objective of Prime Step, a strategic program of the Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Technology of Republic Indonesia, which aim to strengthen research downstreaming, foster innovation capacity, and enhance national competitiveness. It also supports Indonesians' broader roadmap for advanced manufacturing and government vision for a resilient health technology ecosystem. It is within this framework that the Science and Technology Park of Universitas Indonesia also take its place as a hub of collaboration and innovation, and also this interdisciplinary science in the Faculty of Engineering. So on behalf of University Indonesia, I extend my deepest appreciation for your presence today and active participation. Let us take dialogue and springboard for concrete collaboration, whether in the pilot manufacturing project, joint grand research proposal, or student and researcher exchange program that will bring this innovation from the laboratory to the industry, to the clinic. May this workshop help to fruitful discussion, meaningful outcome, and lasting partnership that bring us closer to the healthier future for all. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, next we will listen opening remark from University of Melbourne. We will hear from Professor Sanika Karunasekara, Deputy Dean, Academic Faculty of Engineering and Information Technology, University of Melbourne. Professor Sanika, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Shanika Karnasekara. I'm the Deputy Dean Academic in the Faculty of Engineering and IT at the University of Melbourne. I'm also a professor in the School of Computing and Information Systems, which is a school within the Faculty of Engineering and IT. In Melbourne, we make an acknowledgement of the country at the beginning of important meetings and events. And I would like to keep this tradition when opening events in partner universities. With that, I would like to acknowledge that the University of Melbourne Parkville campus is on the unceded lands of the Wurundjeri people who have been the custodians of the country for over 40,000 years. I pay my respect to their elders past, present, and emerging. I'm pleased to be back at the Universitas Indonesia and the Faculty of Engineering. Our faculty and the Universitas Indonesia Faculty of Engineering have a long and deep relationship with many past and present collaborations. I would like to thank Universitas Indonesia and the Faculty of Engineering specifically for hosting the workshop focused on transforming the advanced manufacturing sector for personalized medical devices today, which I have the pleasure of welcoming all of you to, together with Professor Hamidi Malak, Vice Rector for Research and Innovation. The workshop is a powerful example of the joint initiatives that our university and Universitas Indonesia imagined when we signed our agreement to collaborate within the Indonesian government-supported Partnership in Research Indonesia and Melbourne. It is wonderful to see it come to fruition under the Prime Engineering umbrella, and I have colleagues from Institute of Technology Bandung joining the UI and Melbourne academics in organizing the event and by contributing their expertise in the workshop forums today. I would also like to acknowledge the kind support from the Indonesian government and thank Dr. Fusen Adziman, Director General of Research and Development, Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Technology, and Dr. Jeffrey Adianto, Director of Pharmaceutical and Medical Device Resilience, Ministry of Health, for taking out time from their busy schedules and kindly agreeing to deliver the keynote presentations today. I would like to acknowledge the collaborative spirit that brings us together today, researchers, clinicians, and industry partners, united by a shared commitment to improving lives through biomedical innovation. One initiative that truly exemplifies the spirit in the ARC Research Center for Medical Implant Technologies under the leadership of Professor Peter Lee. The center was established in 2018 through the funding from the Australian Research Council. The center was designed to train the next generation of researchers in the development of advanced medical implants. Over its lifespan, the center successfully trained 13 PhD students with 10 already awarded doctorates, 3 awaiting final results. Through deep engagement with partnership organizations, most of these graduates have transitioned into impactful roles in academia and industry, contributing to innovation in medical technologies, both in Australia and internationally. The center's research has delivered tangible benefits to its industry partners and its influence continues to shape clinical practice, product innovation, and public engagement. Some key insights highlights include jaw kinematics research that led to a redesigned DCM prosthesis now adopted by industry partner Mechanics, an excellent example of academic research transitioning into commercial medical devices. Personalized implant alignment and joint kinematic models were developed and integrated into 360 Medcare surgical planning software, improving surgical outcomes and showcasing the center's effective model of embedding students in industry-led projects. In pediatric orthopedics, the center collaborated with Queensland Hospitals and Griffith University to deliver customized surgical guides for deformity correction. 10 personalized surgical plans were implemented, including the first private insurance-funded surgical simulation in 2024, demonstrating real-world clinical impact. The center also pioneered AI-driven tools for complex hip revision surgeries. A virtual surgical simulator combining AI and biochanneling modeling was developed to estimate implant stability and bone loss, offering patient-specific insight to preoperative planning. These achievements reflect the center's commitment to translational research, industry collaboration, and workforce development. By embedding researchers in clinical and industry settings, ARCCMIT has not only advanced medical technologies but has also cultivated a skilled workforce that will continue driving innovation well beyond the center's formal conclusion. Today's workshop builds on this foundation. It's an opportunity to explore new collaborations, share knowledge, and shape the future of personalized medical devices in our region. Thank you for being a part of this journey. I look forward to the discussions ahead. Thank you.
Next, we will have our photo session. And for the first picture, we invite Professor Hamdi, Professor Kemas, Professor Sanika, Dr. Fauzan, Professor Jeffrey, dan Professor Rani. For the honored guests, please take the stage. Thank you for that. Now we will take the group picture of everyone in the room. Please have a seat. And our photographer will take the picture from the stage. Thank you, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now move to our keynote sessions. To guide us through this important segment, I would like to introduce our moderator, Professor Yudan Hulenza from Universitas Indonesia.
So good morning everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yes, Mbak Farah, thank you for a very kind introductions. And of course, I would love to thanks for everyone that have attended these meetings. And we will go forward with our keynote speaking. And today we will have two speakers. And since we have series after the keynote speaker, we will have our panel discussions. And so for our first keynote session will be delivered by Dr. Fauzan. And I believe Dr. Fauzan has been introduced as a Director General of the Ministry of Dr. Fauzan, the floor is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan, Rahayu. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. First of all, my appreciation for our guests coming from University of Melbourne. That I hear that we are building a few partnership with University of Melbourne through University of Indonesia. So hopefully today's workshop will further our relationship, especially in the field of engineering and biomedical. And I would like to say hello to a few names. First is Dr. Jeffrey Ardianto as the Director of Pharmaceutical and Medical Device Resilience, Ministry of Health of Indonesia. And then, of course, my good friend, and also we frequently meet this day, Bapak Profesor Dr. Hamdi Muluk, Vice Rector for Research and Innovation, Universitas Indonesia, and to Professor Sanika Karuna Sekera, the Deputy Dean Academic, Faculty of Engineering and Information Technology, University of Melbourne, Ibu Rani Sauriasari, as Director of Research Funding and Ecosystem, and then perhaps Pak Hairul, but Pak Hairul is probably not here yet, and then Pak Ahmad Herman as the Vice Dean of Interdisciplinary Engineering Research Unit, Bapak Muhammad Satlan is also a good friend, Director of Institute for Biosystems and Bioengineering. We have Siti Fauzia Rahman as the Head of Research Center for Biomedical Engineering, and Professor David Auckland, researcher from the University of Melbourne, Bapak Yogi Prabowo, surgeon from Universitas Indonesia, and of course Professor Yudan Wulanza from Universitas of Indonesia, and my colleague thing in the panel discussion with Professor Peter Lee from University of Melbourne. I would like to say hello as well to my teacher. So it's been very privileged to talk in front of my colleagues from ITB, from the Faculty of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering, Bapak Andi. So I learned a lot from Pak Andi, and then Pak Sandro, and then my colleague friend as well, Pak Karim, and then Pak Naseh yang akhirnya bertemu Pak. Terima kasih. So In today's keynote, I will try to bring two sides. First is, as mentioned by the moderator, that in my current positions in the ministry, I'll try to span a little bit out of how we may transform personalized healthcare to especially digital manufacturing, because we are talking about digital manufacturing. But at the same time, as introduced earlier, I was involved in the development of technology and the business side of digital manufacturing, especially as well, one of which is on the healthcare, personalized medical device. So I'll try to summarize from my experience what could probably the winning formula from ideas to commercialization. And this is my private journey, so it might probably not proven yet, but at least something perhaps to share. First of all, let me start with the exponential speed of especially 3D printing technological change. So 3D printing is stated as one exponential technologies. I think we understand very well these days that technologies evolve so fast. And then when it evolves so fast, it means that we need to look into a few key strategies on how to, so to say, ride the wave here. How do we ride the wave? Do we continue on keeping the pace as the advanced countries, for example, or do we focus on things which probably that we have market in our country? So specific to this, I also would like to appreciate that despite exponential speed of technological change, but the way that, especially in my previous role at Oxford University as a lecturer and academic tutor at Lady Margaret Hall, we always discuss that despite the very fast technological change, what will remains probably is the importance of the pace of our ideas. So ideas in this case, that's the reason why I start with ideas to commercialization. I think it might probably be general enough that in any technological change, you have an idea which then evolves into technology, which then commercialize. So idea is our starting point. Then second, just to give a context of my background, probably could, because of, I'll be jumping around a little bit on the technology and commercializations quite a little bit. So at the moment, I work as Director General of R&D in the Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Technology, and at the same time working in the CTO office of Danantara, which is a sovereign wealth fund of Indonesia, and also working as a adjunct professor at the Faculty of Mechanical and also Aerospace Engineering. And from that, I still have a loosely attached relationship because of my full-time job at the ministry, but I work as vice director of a research center built in Japan, but led by University of Oxford called Nexta. And Nexta is also focusing, one of which is in the biomedical implant, and then as co-founder and director of Alloyd, which is, this is probably a little bit of precautions because some of the images I will show is probably just for our internal, because I think for the context and probably useful to share experience. But as we know in the biomedical implant world, especially in industry, there's some things that they will like to keep within just in the company. So the winning formula, let me start with step by step. So what do I mean with step by step? I think in biomedical, this is one, I think, one of the key which we learn a lot. So when we start Alloyd in 2016 as a seed fund at Oxford University. So there were 4 co-founders at that time. We submit a proposal. So in Oxford, there was a program called Seed Fund Program through the Technology Transfer Office. You can go to the Technology Transfer Office and then bring your proposal anytime, any day in the year. So the whole year process. So you bring your proposal and then Technology Transfer Office then will assess your proposal, whether this is worthy for commercialization or not. So when we submit our proposal in 2016, they said your proposal's worthy to be spun out. So their funding at that time, starting from, because the seed fund, £5,000 to 250,000 fund. So depending on the quality of your proposal, they may fund you from 5,000 to 250,000. So in Bahasa Indonesia or in rupiah, 5,000 is around 100 juta rupiah to 250,000, 5 miliar rupiah. So it's not very big amount of money if you get a 5,000. And then they say to us that there were 4 of us, so myself and then 3, one is the head of our laboratory, he's a British, and then a colleague of staff as well. So 4 of us were staff of the university from Spain, and then the 4th one is from Northern Ireland. And then they assess our proposal and they said, look, your proposal worth 80,000 pounds. So 80,000 pounds as a seed fund. So in Bahasa Indonesia, again, to give a context, about 1,6 miliar rupiah. Again, it's not big money, but we start with 1.6 in Bahasa Indonesia, miliar rupiah. Okay, then what they then did to us, they said that, look, we saw your technology IP, and then they mentioned as well all the capabilities of the team and the technology, which I will then explain to you. And we were given about 6 months to 8 months at a time to spend the 80,000. But then the key focus at the time was to really understand a workable business model. So workable business model, something which I'll explain as well later on. So then we spent about 6 to 8 months. We started as a company at that time to focus on materials discovery. So we didn't start as biomedical, or we didn't start in the 3D printing. Our key IP was at that time in the materials discovery. To give a context, my background, my bachelor is in mechanical engineering, but then I tend do towards modeling, so computational engineering. So that what I did in master's degree, and then in PhD, my focus was more on applied mathematics. So it's more on the mathematics side rather than more on the engineering side with a professor in theoretical physicists. So what then I use what we learned to then try to model or to improve materials discovery, because materials discovery requires usually so many years, and then we try to make it short by using computational technology. And then from that point, they said that, look, if you can shape this business model a little bit further with what you can apply in different applications, I think your proposal will work more. So this is something which I think very key. They said that do it step by step, but then aiming to the right goals. Yeah. So that's probably first winning formula, which then I think the image here is probably not very important, but then during the process of their assessment, I explained about my background. So I start my career in industry. So I worked in Japan for about 4 or 5 years. And then I moved to the UK and then became academic. So roughly around 11, 12 years at Oxford University. But then since 2016, we start the journey of spinning out that company. And then now which I'm working in the government. So essentially a full circle from industry and then university, technopreneurship, and regulation. So hopefully today it may be probably helpful to give a little bit overview of what probably those parts may see in the transformations for the personalized healthcare. And then that's number one. So let's build step by step. And in the context of biomedical implant, so in the end, we managed to build our biomedical implant by, number one is to get relevant ISO certificates. And in personalized medical implant, it took us 3 years, and then I did ask our employees to count how many documents did we produce. We produced 7,000 documents to get the ISO certificate for personalized medical implant. So it was a very hard job, one, and then we had to cross subsidize. So I'll explain a little bit on the cross subsidy part, and because this is important, because if we just really start from biomedical implants since the beginning, it would have been very difficult because it is very cost not so efficient in the beginning because we inject a lot of money and then the expertise is pretty high, so you need to hire people with high pay. We built our medical implant business first in the UK, but when we did expand to Japan and the USA later on, once we get the ISO certificate. But it took us 3 years and 7,000 documents. So what's important here is we need to have a good target. So target oriented is, I think, the second winning formula that we need to build. So it doesn't necessarily align always with what we want, but at least we understand on setting a good target and then we work towards it. So in my case, this is just probably for relevancy. I start working at Oxford University in the UTC, University Technology Center for Rolls-Royce. So you may wonder then, it is very far away from biomedical implant, and then I will say yes. So we start from engine development. So my first job at Oxford is actually to build through computational modeling improvement of engine manufacturing processes. So this is one engine that I worked in the past, which is Trend XWB. And then once I became a senior research fellow in the university, meaning that I can apply as a PI and also co-PI in the university, then I work on building GE9X engine for 777X. But then what we did was, again, I think there is the lateral thinking part that we apply what we implement, because if you look at this blade, so the blade over here is called fan blade, and fan blade is made of titanium. So we start our work using titanium, which is Ti64, which is very common. And then the technology of Ti64 that we learned, and then the technology of computational model that we built to improve new materials, we combine that to then discover biomedical titanium implant material. So we start from aerospace, and then we learn about vanadium. That vanadium is usually in Ti64 because T6 is vanadium. We make it less because vanadium is not working well with human body. So then we convert that into biomedical titanium. But we start from aerospace. And then this is the research center. It's called Co-Creation Research Center that we built in Japan. Again, similar story. We start from aerospace. When we did get the funding for this, we did get funding for about 50 million US dollar. We have around 40 employees now with 7 professors that we recruit. And then we start moving from aerospace to development of EV motor. And then we end up doing biomedical implant as well. So I think this probably as well state that when we see lateral thinking of engineering, it might be helpful to learn one thing and then we apply it to another. So this is what we learn from understanding aerospace specification and requirements, which is as well very daunting and a lot, and also similar to biomedical implant requirements. Now, fast forward, we then built the business more and more. So we initially start with the 1.6 or the 80,000 pounds sterling business as a seed fund. And then fast forward to last year. So I need to also mention that since I joined the ministry, I had to cut off completely from the uh, company because of avoiding any conflict of interest. So I didn't follow the company anymore at the moment. But about a year ago, valuation of the company is around 100 million pounds, or in Indonesia in rupiah is around 2.5 triliun rupiah, 2,5 triliun rupiah. So we start from 1.1,6 miliar and becomes 2,5 trillion. So about 1,000 to 1,200 times since the beginning of the journey. So it took us around 7 to 8 years. We have, we had, because it's a year ago, 160 permanent employees that mostly we hired in the UK, and then some because we expanded to Seattle in the US and also to Osaka in Japan. So some in Japan, some in the US, but then we hired quite a lot of non-permanent employees, of course, to expand the business. But what I would like to say is when we start the journey, I think about 3-4 years ago, I did ask our HR. At that time, the company size was about 50 to 60 people. So how many nationalities do we have in the company? And then we counted carefully, and then the number came 29 nationalities just for about 50, 60 people. So it says that when you go to such a spin-out ecosystem, especially here at Oxford University, nationality doesn't matter anymore. So we even hire everyone from everywhere, because I remember I hired someone really good, and it was from a country that very difficult to get a immigration access to the UK. So we hire our lawyer to get 2 engineers from that country, and we managed to get both of them, and they are now in Oxford. So another thing which I would like to say, in our target-oriented and step-by-step, people is very important. So with that in mind, so now just to a bit tickle your mind, because we start from aerospace and then we jump to biomedical. There are some intermediary steps that we took. So we didn't jump directly to biomedical. From aerospace, actually we jumped to automotive industry. So these are components that we made or work with. Especially this is our key project, which I led as well, because before coming to Indonesia last year, I was CEO of the company in Japan. And this was our project with Toyota Motor Company, TMC, in Japan. And then what we did try to help Toyota is to, so we start with personalized healthcare, right? In automotive, there is a personalized automotive sector as well, which is racing sector. So we enter automotive through the racing business, and then we end up as well supplying some of our components and R&D to Honda F1, and then Honda F1 used by Red Bull, and 2 years ago Red Bull won, so we were part of that team. And then we end up as well building heat exchangers for Ferrari, especially their F250, which is, I think next year will be announced. We did build, and I led as well, part of the program, which then will be released in 2029. Ferrari, I mean, a single car costs 1.5 million pound. So we start from aerospace and then automotive, going to racing business, F1. Again, precision is very important. If you're doing F1 business, essentially specification is very close to aerospace. And that is, I think, when you have a target and then we divide where we want to be, I think we might probably end up with where we want to be. So that is the second one, the target-oriented. The third formula, I think, is open-minded. So open-minded means that I remember I was part of the board as well in the company, or in Bahasa Indonesia, Komisaris. And then we make a lot of hard decisions in the beginning. And one of the hardest decisions was in the field of what do we need to build. So we don't want to diversify emulsify a lot because you are spreading to thins. You might probably not to concentrate enough. But we saw something in common in wide range of markets. So urgent needs, despite you're talking electronics, industrial or medical, they are in need of higher functional density, they are in need of lower energy, they are in need of lighter weight, lower cost, time of design, and more sustainable supply chains. So by understanding where is the common thing, and then we attack the common thing part in our technology development, and then we manage to build our patient-specific implants business. And then how did we do that? We essentially start from computational, as I mentioned, and we build a platform. So this is what we call ABD platform for rapid alloy design development. One point is a single material, which means that you may change your, say, titanium, you may change your vanadium, you may change your magnesium. And then we try to search through a Pareto front search which few of materials would be a high candidate for a better applications. And we apply that in a number of different technologies. And then the key technology here is we need to link then between, this is another key, materials and manufacturing technologies. And actually, material and manufacturing technologies, they link each other, but the difficulty, they will need different expertise. So we combine people from different background. So I then start hire people with physics background. And then my favorite to hire someone with a strong computational physics background. So they were in my team, someone who did Olympic physics Olympics, and then hired as well someone did informatics Olympics, and then that guy is actually Australian, who went to Cambridge and then went to Oxford and then worked with us. And what we try to build is to optimize the laser, because the algorithm of the laser is something that you can modify. So the same also in PC, you have Windows, you have Linux. In 3D printing, you have Windows-like 3D printing, which is everything stat. And then there's also Linux-like 3D printing, which essentially you can modify a lot of the operations of the 3D printing itself. So essentially the brain you can plug in. So what we did was, we didn't use the Windows-like 3D printing, we used the Linux-like 3D printing. And then we developed a lot of algorithm with our physicists and also mathematician, and then optimize the way the laser. Okay, the idea here is so that you optimize with the lowest cost, because the lowest cost is the entry point to 3D printing. So as you can see over there, we managed to reduce the cost of, this is an example, it's actually headlamp cooling that usually sold for $14.5 each. And with our technology, we managed to reduce that to $3.7. So there is a rule of thumb. If you couldn't manage to reduce cost by half, you don't enter the market. So that is the difficulty of bringing technology to reduce your cost. If you are still higher than half, you don't get the business. This is just a rule of thumb. So we reduced from 14 to 3, and then we start Toyota listening to us, and then we can then talk to them and then build an ecosystem of R&D. So R&D is not only to improve quality, R&D should be there to reduce cost. Now, this is just some on the scientific part, but I'm not in the position to explain all the details due to some of companies' informations. But what we did was, as you can see, is there is a phrase that I learned from one of our teacher in the university, that the devil is in the detail. And indeed, in 3D printing, the devil is in the detail, because you're talking about laser size. So this is one, you will see later on, a lot of biomedical implants will use mesh type of structure. And then the size of the mesh is very thin. And then if you are working with laser, you need to make sure that that strut is strong enough because you need to have a sufficient stiffness. So we develop technologies to make sure that these struts, as you can see that we check through SCM, that they are all in good quality, and that is where the precision is very important in biomedical implant. And this is also similar. So some is using struts, but some are using structures, surface structures, as you see over there. And then the size is in the micron. So we had to develop this whenever we build a 3D printing structures. And this perhaps made by titanium, or also, of course, we build also some using aluminum. The reason of titanium is for the stiffness strength to ratio. And now I start bringing a little bit of the biomedical implant, right? So you see that when we are building this, we actually build from different technologies. So instead, we learn a lot from aerospace, as mentioned, and intermediary, we learn as well from automotive. And then in the end, we manage to then start printing part of implants which mimic the body. And we also build with some other technologies. Excuse me to jumping around. So these are the structures using mesh, which we produce by ourselves in terms of the software, because software is crazy expensive when you are buying it. So we build our own, just to make sure that we can manage the cost again. So reduction of cost is very important in the biomedical implant business. We manage also to make sure that calculations and experiments, they're very important as well. This is where we learn a lot from, of course, academic communities, and not only the structure, but also we learn about coating. So that is using nitride coating, titanium nitride coating. And so we start from a sector where we fit biomedical implant. We start from ankles, and then we move bit by bit to then enter also other parts of implants. And I think probably useful to say that when we start entering the market, we decided to go straight away to personalized medical implant, because standard implant is even costing a lot in terms of investment. So this is probably a little bit counterintuitive, because we may thought that standard implant is more expensive. It's actually personalized implant, investment-wise, is cheaper. So that's the reason why we enter personalized implant first. But then what we did was we built an ecosystem which essentially allowing anyone to design implant. So we built software which is not shown here, but our business model is we don't want to design all implants by ourselves because it's not scalable. So this is also two parts of information which need to be cautiously understood, because in academics, you want to make sure everything in high quality. You do, I mean, surgeon operator with, of course, surgeon. But for business, that is expensive exercise, because we need to hire engineers, and then one engineers need to go from designing until deploying, and that includes as well meetings with surgeons. So what we decided was, we decided to make this business like a franchise business, where we create a platform that anyone can use. And we had discussion with a few governments at that time, including Qatar government, because Qatari government would like to have this technology in Qatar. So we deploy all the technologies, including machines, and also how to design. And then we let Qatari engineers to design by themselves. And we are doing this as well in the US. This is not only for business. I learn a lot as well when I talk to Dr. Nasehab. And then I spoke as well in the board and in our team that I think this business shouldn't just be a commercial business. It has to be social based, because when we learn from uh, Rumah Sakit Hasan Sadikin. Kalau boleh buka sedikit, mohon maaf. Dr. Nasir mentioned to me in our local university hospital ya Pak ya? University atau bukan ya? Bukan. University Hospital in Bandung, to give you a context, that when someone broke their legs, for example, due to accidents and things, because buying these things, to give a context as well, one of that small implants may cost around maybe 10,000 US dollar ya Pak ya. Maybe more ya, sampai 300 juta waktu itu ya. So it's expensive. So Dr. Nasha explained to me many of the efforts based on MacGyvering. So MacGyvering means that with all the tools available, sometimes as well with not the right materials. So sometimes just use stainless steel, which is available, and then also stainless steel is best on because it's stainless, but it is actually pretty heavy. So what we then did was not only on the capital to gain capital, but the capital of this to gain as well social effect or impact. And so these are the 3 products groups that then we expanded. Development not only on the ankle side, but cages, so femur, recon, tibia, recon, hand, plates, wrist, and then talar replacement. We even, but it's still development as well as on the upper body side that we start working on. And then how then we thrive in the field? Of course, we work with surgeons. So we do some launches like this, talk in the academic forum. I think it's very important just to make sure that surgeons, so we used to invite 200 surgeons in the UK just to explain our technology and then see whether they are interested in work with us. And then we also working on the world first wrist cage for failed total wrist replacement, just making sure that all that sufficiently can be implemented. And we also built a metamaterial society, especially on biocompatibility side, and making sure that biocompatibility testing can be done and assessed as well by the academics. So despite all the business side, the medical side, and then the technology side, academic community and surgeon community are critical for us. Now, let me jump back again, because we start with open mind, if you still remember. So then when we decided to enter space market, so we then entered space market. So we developed further, and then this is a combustion chamber for satellite. So just to give you a little bit of context from biomedical, from aerospace to biomedical, and then from biomedical, we then spun out to other things. So space rocket. We also then enter luxury goods market. So last year, and this part was something which I personally led as well, we managed to print some parts for Rolex. So in the end, because you are talking about precision, I'm not trying to suggest biomedical engineers to change into luxury goods engineers. But to give you perspective, the technology and business could go side to side, and then where we subsidize, because I can tell that with the same effort, selling in medical, it's much, much harder than selling luxury goods. People don't ask you a lot of specifications in luxury goods. So long that it is beautiful and nice, and you link up with the right people, people will buy your product. And then we end up as well developing Kappa AM for electric motors. Again, something that we didn't think before. And then lastly, last year, we managed to enter jewelry business. And then one key partner in jewelry business was with Cartier. And then we had an MOU, so selling, we don't sell directly, so it's B2B through Tiffany and Co. If you are, walking around big cities abroad, Tiffany and Co. usually in the high street where people can buy jewelry. Right, so it's all only 5, so we are getting close to where I need to then finalize what are the winning formula. Okay, number 4 is realistic. So all that, all on the technology side. So let me bring down a little bit to the my current role in the Ministry of Higher Education. I'll do this pretty quickly. I explained this actually yesterday. We launched this yesterday, and I thought probably it's good to explain to you. We launched a new program called Strategic Research Program. So in the ministry, I tried to be simple. So we just divide 2 programs in the whole research and development. One is what we call the Priority Research Program, and second is Strategic Research Program. And then we did launch yesterday Strategic Research Program can help developing further in terms of personalized medical device research, if you wish. Now, what is Priority Research Program? Priority Research Program in Indonesia, we would like to improve distributions of research capability in the whole of Indonesia. So the primary aim is to improve our success of research from average 1 to average 2. Basically, we are improving the whole ship. So this requires a big inertia. So we are using our pretty large funding. So in Bahasa or in Indonesia, I haven't converted in dollars yet, but it is 2.5 trillion rupiah, so 2,5 trillion rupiah, just to improve the average. And then yesterday, we launched Strategic Research Program. So this is, we focus on, not on the average, but we focus on people who are already doing great research, and then we fund them specifically, strategically. So the idea is we would like to improve impact of our research, and one of which is, if you could, probably I would like to hear as well to build program on personalized, affordable healthcare. So affordable is in Indonesia still a very key word, and if we could build a specific project around here, I would like to hear more, and then perhaps we can invest in the activity. So in the strategic research program, in total, we have around 1.1 trillion rupiah. So 1,1 trillion rupiah, which we would like to spend for strategic topic that making impact. And then I would say that I think personalized medical device will be one of key topic. Now, we would like as well that our strategic research program should be based on collaborative ecosystem. So that's the reason why I think here, apologies, this is in Bahasa Indonesia. So mitra luar negeri, partnership or overseas entities, and also this is universities, industry, startup, but all this wouldn't work if there is a strong root of collaboration. So we are encouraging more and more collaborations. What do we need from all other part? We only need high value problems that you would like to solve. But that comes from industry, could come from government, could come from communities. That is all what we need. And then we will provide the funding. We would like campus to be a node or a hub of economic growth. So this is something that we are trying to build more and more within the ministry. For that reason, then we built 3 schemes of new clusters of programs. One is what we call it scheme cluster for high caliber researcher. So we did have funding, if you remember, the priority research program. That is for getting everyone to a good average. But then people with high age index, for example, we will suggest taking this route and then solving real difficult problems with us, accelerating our problem solutions in Indonesia. The second is we built what we call it impactful research, or in Bahasa Indonesia, riset berdampak. So we focus on key items or key themes, which we solve again with a good ecosystem. And the third is strategic downstream research, where essentially this is commercialization, which we work with joint ventures and also with the Ministry of Investment and Downstream Industry. We do that in the idea of we would like our university to be a research university more and more. So we built a few programs that we could hire postdoc. So there's a young fellowship research program. We also have a program called graduate research assistant. So this is a PhD students who would like to stay in campus, and then we can fund and then pay some salary. We hope that the salary is good enough to retain good talents so that they can compare going outside of university and stay in university. We would like more and more young people to be involved in research, but also we have what we call it academic leader research. This is for top scientists, for professors who are already very good. We fund up to 2.5 million rupiah. So this is again, so in rupiah, 2.5 billion rupiah for just one professor and group and his or her group up to 3 years, so up to 7.5 billion rupiah per group. Essentially, again, to solve high-value problems that I mentioned earlier. For that reason, why we need high-value problem. And then we build as well impactful research cluster, one of which is international collaborations. And this is also probably something that we extend to Prime with University of Melbourne. But again, essentially, we would like to work on high-value problems. And then the third is we also have hackathon. So hackathon we discussed recently with, in Bahasa we call it Himbara, so Himpunan Bank Negara, which is our state-owned banks, recently being transferred 200 trillion rupiah from the Bank of Indonesia, and then we were asked by the central government that that part of the money should be used for science and technology. So we are going to do hackathon. We already received 814 products across Indonesia that we are trying to downstream and commercialize. Okay, so hopefully that gives a little clue of the realistic bit. So the realistic bit is we have some money to spend and then build your research step by step. Still remember. And then 2 is target oriented. You understand where you want to be, with of course time. And then open mind, mean that you can start from somewhere, but you might end up with the personal healthcare business or technology. And then the 4th is, if you still remember, realistic. We have budget, meaning that we need to really build the research and also commercialization plan realistically, but unthinkably if possible. Now, number 5. So number 5 is the most important from my experience in building business and also learning from my previous job at Oxford University and also from industry. So the 5th part is you. So you are the most important, means that human capital. So human capital is actually the most important, meaning that I think university ecosystem is so much important that we build together. And then with this, we are building a roadmap so that we understand where we want to go. So we did have a convention in Bandung earlier in August. And then we are now writing Indonesia research roadmap. We have 48, lots of them. But then key to this roadmap is the roadmap is dynamic, meaning that If you cannot achieve by one specific year, we add the dynamic modeling part. So the roadmap with some modeling part, we understand what variables important, we understand what constraints, essentially it is an optimization problem. And then second is this roadmap built with multi stakeholders. Okay, and then we also build research map, not only the roadmap. So we are identifying, this is what we call dashboard of our research activities in Indonesia. And then you can click, so this is online, and then you can see where we do research. But at the same time, we have as well part called permasalahan or problems. So we are mapping our problem as well. We superimpose them. We would like our local universities to be useful to at least their surrounding, and then aware of problems that we need to solve together. And then by doing this, we hope that we can then start replicate good examples and then distribute across Indonesia. So Indonesia is important, and you in these cases, I mean, that includes Indonesia. So let me then summarize. So first is step by step, the winning formula that I learned. And then second is T, target oriented. And then the third is O, which is open mind. And then R is realistic, which is all the funding and sort. And then the last is Y. Now, when you're talking about medical business, this is I learned a lot. It's not easy to convince people to buy your product because it's expensive. So what you need is a good way on building the narrative why it is important. Because at the moment, if you say to our community that this technology is very important, it is costly, so may not probably easy to invest. So we need to build a good story narrative. So story on building biomedical implant business or personalized healthcare becoming important. So this is where I think one of the key important when we want to transfer or translate our ideas to commercialization is indeed story. Thank you very much for your time, and then apologies for
Thank
taking
you,
so
Pak Fauzan. Thank you for very great talk, Pak. So ladies and gentlemen, I think uh, very inspiring with the story what he had. And since Pak Fauzan remain with us until the panel discussions, so I knew that every of you have the questions, but hold that thought. We will discuss it during the panels. And now I'd love to invite Prof. Mandi Muluk, you stay, and Prof. Shanika. So we have token appreciations from UI and also from Unimel. Sorry Pak, little bit extension tadi ya. I was about to stop you Pak Fauzan, but then you tell about the funding, so I cannot stop. That is very important. Thank you again. Our best applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Now we move forward to our second speakers. So, Dr. Jeffrey, before Yeah, Dr. Jeffrey, silakan, floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I'm sorry, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Fauzan, the Director General of Research and Development. Prof. Abdi Muluk, the Vice Rectors, University of Indonesia. Prof. Kemas, the Dean of Faculty of Technique, and also the faculty members, Professor Sanika from the University of Melbourne. Actually, I spent 2 years of my life live in Melbourne, and part of the University of Melbourne, I did my English preparation study at the Trinity College University of Melbourne, Swanston Street, Carlton. And then I continued to RMIT. Sorry. 1 year in University Alberta, and then enters. I did my postgraduate diploma and Master of Applied Science in Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology. My background is radiographer actually. Even my philosophy of doctor is in management. So I started study from Diploma 3, Academy Penata Ronson, and then Bachelor of Applied Science, Master of Applied Science in Computed Tomography. Yeah. So this is my background. And ladies and gentlemen, the participants of this workshop, yeah. I'm really sorry if today actually I'm unwell. I have my sore throat, so and also my English is not good as Pak Dr. Fauzan. Okay, before going to the presentation, I'd like to tell you the story about the two issues right now. Currently, in my department, in the Department of Pharmaceutical and Medical Device Resilience, Ministry of Health, do right now about the two issues. The first issue is about the imported medical device. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, there are more than 2,500 types of medical device from US FDA. 2,400. In Indonesia, there are only 1,500 available medical device in Indonesia. So in Indonesia, only 60% items if we compare to the items from US FDA. From 1,500 items, only 500, only 30% medical device in Indonesia can be produced locally. It means that 1/3 types of medical device available in Indonesia. Okay, and then 1,000 types of medical device in Indonesia. We then search the items based on HS code in Director General of Customs, Ministry of Finance, to check what's the item. And then we get the data from the customs. After I list what items medical device by value we still import, cannot be produced locally, and then we define there are 310 items. There are 310 items among 1,000 of medical device we import from other countries. And then we talk to the Kadin. We talk to the industries. The possibility to produce locally about these medical devices. After we give the 310 the types, and then Kadin give the data back to me, only 75 items of medical device that is possible can be produced locally in Indonesia by Indonesian industry. When I check one by one, from number 1 to number 75, I don't find the personalized medical implants in 75 items. This is why, according to Dr. Fauzan, it's very expensive. Yes. If we talk to the industries about producing medical device, the main issue is economic of scale. How much the money should be invest to starting from research and development, building the factory, and then the distribution, etc. Yeah. Personalized medical implants is very personal. We should understand it's very personal. It differs one from patient to patient. We understand that medical implants is categorized as D. It means that it has a high risk to the patients. Should pass the clinical studies. This is very expensive. So when I talk to the industries, again, I check one by one, only medical device from class B, A and B, yeah, not D. Yeah. Okay, this is the first issue. The second issue, as mentioned by Dr. Fauzan, as a MacGyver in Hasan Sadikin Bandung, our one of our hospitals, the biggest hospital maybe in West Java. Okay. Currently, I have a duty from my Ministry of Health, that we should coordinate with the hospitals to encourage to develop, especially for the orthopedic and prosthetic services in Indonesia. My ministers need to improve that the hospital in Indonesia gives service, especially for the orthotics and prosthetics in Indonesia, not only in Central Java. We know that there is a center of hospital under Ministry of Health, Rumah Sakit Ortopedi Pusat Suharso Surakarta. Ministry of Health needs Rumah Sakit Suharso Ortopedi, and then the ecosystem with other hospitals, and then Fatmawati, and then RSCM with ecosystem. So every hospital can support, can deliver the service, especially for the orthotic and prosthetic. So when I check the service in Rumah Sakit Ortopedi Pusat Dr. Suharso Surakarta, with my team, we checked that only 20% maybe from the service for implant in orthopedic prosthetic produced digitally, maybe only 20%. The majority is manually. So I don't know how precisely about the medical implant when used by the patients. Dr. Fauzan, tell us about the 3D printing, with the highest technology. I think the result is very precise actually. And I can confirm that this is not I don't found in the hospitals in Indonesia. So these two issues I need the all participants that right now, currently 2025, medical implants, I think, I don't know, in the future maybe can be produced locally in Indonesia. Okay, I will present several points regarding the direction of medical implant development as medical devices, the supporting regulations for health resilience, and opportunities for research and industry collaborations. Okay, this is our pyramid of health system transformation. As we know that we have a vision, we have 6 pillars, health transformation system, the strengthening primary health care, first pillar, and then secondary services or referral, health system resilience, health financing, health workforce, and health technology. In medical implant, we don't have medical implant service in primary healthcare. We only have in the secondary or referral services. It means that in the hospital. And health system resilience, of course. um, we need encourage the industry can produce locally body medical device. Each pillar is interconnected and vital for building and resilient and sustainable health system. System resilience is reinforced through stronger pharmaceutical and medical device capacity, the availability of medicine and medical device across all levels of care, preventive, promotive, curative, and rehabilitative. This fundamental. Okay, this is a geographic of Indonesia. And Indonesia is an archipelago country consisting of the 38 province. We compare from the left and right. There are 17,631 items based on number of device can be produced local, but 56,000, almost 57,000, the medical device based on the number of medical device is import. And I mentioned before that around 500, precisely 487 types of medical device, local product, and 1,579 types of medical device import is still available in Indonesia. There are 781 medical device manufacturers, but there are more than 6,000 medical device distributors. We have 27 medical device testing laboratories and 83 clinical trials facilities in the hospitals. While imported devices still dominate the market, domestic production is steadily increasing, aligned with the government's health transformation agenda. This complex landscape poses multiple challenges, ensuring regulatory oversight across thousands of products, strengthening local industry to reduce import dependency, and guaranteeing equitable access to diagnostic and medical technologies across Indonesia's diverse region. Okay, let's talk about the introduction and market opportunity. The three things explain why personalized implants matters today. Okay. First, market is expanding rapidly. Not only are implant in general a multi-billion-dollar business, but the personalized segment is growing at almost 17% a year. Second, new clinical and technological tools like imaging, AI, and advanced 3D printing make it possible to design implants that truly match each patient. And the third, there are still gaps to fill of the self-implants don't always fit well, but both infrastructures and regulation are still catching up. That's where a national coordinated effort can make the difference. If we look at the screen, we can look at global market growth, especially in the global orthopedic implants market is projected to grow, yeah, from 49.7 billion US in 2025 to 71 billion by 2032. Yeah. Okay, and then the personalized 3D printed orthopedic implants submarket is smaller but growing faster. Okay, the number is in the screen. These are challenges and strategies. Let's look at the main challenges we face in establishing a national network from personalized implant technology and the practical strategies we can take forward. First, there are high costs. As Dr. Fauzan told us that more than 300 million rupiah, yeah, to repair the knee joint. Okay. They're very expensive. Advanced materials like biocompatible metals, ceramics, and polymers are expensive. Yeah. And plus, additive manufacturing equipment such as metal 3D printers, yeah, require significant upfront investment. Yeah. The second, we have regulatory and clinical trial complexity. Personalized implant don't always fit neatly into existing pathways, and clinical trials needs adapted designs to evaluate patient solution specific properly. The third, the ecosystem is fragmented. University, hospital, manufacturers, and regulators often work in isolation, and lack of shared data and infrastructures slows progress. Yeah. Fourth, there is a skill workforce of gap. We need more biomedical engineers trained in CAD, 3D printing, and regulatory science, and current training opportunities are limited. And finally, scalability and market access are challenging. Moving from pilot project to wider adoption is not straightforward, and reimbursement model for personalized implant are still unclear. Ladies and gentlemen, we Indonesia covers about the health services, yeah, with the BPJS, but we understand that many items does not include the every services, yeah, in the hospitals. In primary care, yes, of course, because only the case, a flu, headaches, but the high case like the implants, we agree that the service in hospital, and again the issue is the covers insurance by BPJS. Yeah. Now, turning to strategies forward, we focus on practical step-based actions, strengthen collaboration between universities, hospital, and manufacturers. Second, promote local innovation and research to reduce reliance on imported solution. Number three, expand training program in biomedical engineering and regulatory science, encourage pilot project and phase adoption in hospitals, and explore public-private partnership to support funding and infrastructures. These strategies are realistic and actionable, emphasizing ecosystem-wide cooperation, gradual adoption, and skill development without overburdening and single stakeholders. Of course, we are very happy that more than 1.7 and 1.1 trillion rupiah from the Ministry of Higher Education, Research and Development give to university, give to researchers. So this is the opportunity to the lectures and the scientists, researchers to take this advantage to did the research, especially in medical sectors. This is our regulation number 28 of 2024, part 5, health supplies and pharmaceutical and medical device resilience. The government efforts to increase the resilience of pharmaceutical and medical device. In supporting pharmaceutical and medical device resilience, the government regulation number 28 of 2024 has been created, which emphasize developing and strengthening supply chain governance, prioritizing research and development, increasing the use of local pharmaceutical and medical device, providing incentive, including the fiscal and non-fiscal, building a research ecosystem, and preparing risk mitigations. Okay, why clinical trials matters for the medical implants? Implants file under Class D, as I mentioned before, which is the highest risk category for medical device. This means they pose significant risk if not properly evaluated. Because of this high risk status, clinical trials are mandatory before we can obtain marketing authorizations. These trials generate critical evidence on safety and effectiveness, protecting patients and informing clinical decisions. Ultimately, clinical trials give regulators the confidence to approve the product and clinicians the confidence to use it. For high-risk implants, skipping this step is not an option, which is why clinical trial planning is such a central part of the development pathway. These are requirements for clinical trials regulatory approval. In my directorate, we handle this. Start from application form, clinical investigation plan, informed consent, ethical committee approval, investigational device information, certificate of analysis, quality management system certificate, KCP certificate for investigators, CV for the investigators, clinical trials insurance, contact agreement, laboratory certificate, marketing approval, clinical trials progress report. If we look from pre-market, post-market, and for the renewal. Of course, many things should be completed in pre-market, of course, and some in post-market, and only three the documents for the renewal. To obtain regulatory approval, the required documents vary depending on whether the application is for pre-market clinical trials, post-market or renewal. Yeah. A total of 14 documents may be needed to not all apply to every type of approval. As outlined on this slide, the document requirement differ from these three categories. There are two ongoing implant clinical trials currently underway for the implant. Number one, clinical trial to evaluate the safety and performance of spinal implants in patients with stability disorder or deformities. Ya, uji klinik untuk evaluasi kinerja dan keamanan dari implan tulang belakang pada kasus kelainan stabilitas atau deformasi. Principal investigator Dr. Rahyud Salim, spesialis ortetik, spesialis orthopedic consultant, sponsored from PT Zenith, BRIN, and Pharmametrics, yes, with status ongoing. The number two, prospective randomized active treatment control evaluator blinded radiologist reviewer and physician evaluator multi-center study to establish the superiority of a hyaluronan-based scaffold, hyalofast, with autologous bone narrow aspirate concentrate BMAC in the treatment of articular knee cartilage defect lesion in comparison to control microfracture treatments. The principal investigator Dr. Andri Marulitua Lubis, spesialis orthopedic consultant, and Dr. Robin Nelwan, also spesialis orthopedic consultant. Sponsored from Anika Therapeutics USA and Pharmametrics Labs, yeah, as a CRO. Highlighting these trials help us understand the current research landscape and identify areas for potential collaboration or future development. We can see where activity is concentrated and how these studies may inform broader implant development efforts moving forward. To conclude, Indonesia is strengthening its health system across multiple pillars with medical device and IVDs as critical enablers, expanding medical device including implant globally aligned with national health transformation and build local capacity. Challenges exist: high cost, regulatory complexity, fragmented ecosystem, workforce gap, and scalability issues, but practical strategies can address them stepwise. Clinical trials are essential for high-risk implants, Class D, to ensure safety, efficacy, and regulatory compliance. I think this is my last slide of presentation. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jeffrey, for updating us about the plan. Of course, he will be talking as well in the panels. Please stay there, Jeffrey. Of course, we wanted again, Prof. Hamdi, and could you please? Thank you very much. Please our give us applause. So, dear esteemed guests, that will be our ending of this speakers. Now we are moving forward to the panel sessions, and we have very short break, like 5 minutes, because we need to more sofa. Please do the refreshment. And Prof. Peter Lee, so I will be replaced by Peter Lee from the University of Melbourne. So I think silakan refresh dulu rekan-rekan semuanya. Thank you Prof. Hamdi, thank you Prof. Rani, and Dr. Fauzan, ya, Prof. And also Pak Jeffrey. Kita istirahat 5 menit saja ya, karena kita running late. Prof. Hamdi ada, gimana kabarnya? Mohon maaf. Prof. Hamdi ada meeting ya? Kita mau meeting. Siap. Terima kasih. Iya. Mohon maaf saya update-nya kurang. Lagi banyak update.
Mau kan bisa banyak bantu malah ini.
Nggak apa-apa, nggak apa-apa. Aman. Udah lumayan ramai. Iya.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, still talking.
You have to.
Yeah, I think we have to wait. Okay, please, ladies and gentlemen. Iya, masih bicara-bicara ya. Still. Nggak bisa kayaknya. Asih. Um, Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Shall we start our next session? You done it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we will now move on to our panel discussion. To guide us through this important segment, I'm pleased to hand the floor to our moderator, Prof. Peter Lee from University of Melbourne. Uh, I I will read about. I will read your.
Um, so we will be starting a really interesting panel discussion So of course, when you have a panel in this discussion, it's not the moderator that's going to be doing the work, it's the panel member. So I'd like to invite all the panel members to come up. We have Dr. Fazan and Dr. Jeffrey and Dr. Yogi, yep, and also Professor David Ackland. Yeah. Yeah, please come and take a seat. Anyway, you're the first one. Right, thank you very much. I would really like to encourage the audience to start thinking about questions that you have, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to spend some time discussing the topic, but also giving you an opportunity to ask key questions. And I'm sure that with really key people in Indonesia looking after research and development, and also the hospital system, and we have orthopedic surgeon here, and we also have an academic who is well versed in 3D printed devices. I'm sure you have lots of questions. So if I go to the slides, yeah. So before we get started, I'm just going to be very brief about what we like to do here, but I also want to give you some idea what's happening in Australia. And of course, to give you a background, why 3D printed devices. So the panel discussion is going to be about establishing, I spell establishing wrong there, establishing a national advanced manufacturing network for personalized implant technology. Now, Dr. Jeffrey actually showed this slide about, the growing market in 3D printed devices. Sorry, guys, I'm showing the slides in the back of you, but if you just, try to see it. But I'm being very brief. Now, when we talk about personalized implant, we know very well that, our geometry, you and I, we all look different. Loading conditions are different, material properties are different. Therefore, with what's happening so far with the current orthopedic devices, there's always about a couple, maybe 3 sizes, and they try to fit the whole population. But we talked about function as well. All patients don't function similarly. Young people would still want an implant that could make them run a marathon, while older people could be quite happy doing gardening. So what's happening in Australia is this is a chart showing the regulatory process that has gone through in the Australian Therapeutic Good Administration. So a lot of devices that used to be known as custom device are now considered as patient match because they fit into a design envelope. So that regulation came about sometime in 2021. And after 2021, what happened is a lot of the custom device are no more considered custom, but they have to be registered in the ARTG, which is, oh, sorry. So you can't hear me properly. Okay. Okay. So just to reiterate a little bit about this, a lot of 3D medical printed devices are now classified as patient match. They are not custom devices because they fit into a design envelope. Now, so when I talk about custom made and patient match, the way the TGA differentiate it is that if you design a product for the sole use of a particular individual, in other words, you're not making more than 5, right? Just for that one patient, it's still considered custom made, right? It doesn't need to go through the ARTG. The doctors or the surgeons really could sign off. Whereas patient match, if you design for the sole use of a particular individual, but you have been making this device routinely for different size patient, for example, it is now considered as a patient match. So patient match is treated like any off-the-shelf implants. So a lot of custom devices known before the regulation came about in 2021. They now have been moved to patient match devices. Now, we at the University of Melbourne has been adopting what we call the measure, model, manufacture, manage process. So I'm sure David Ackland will talk a little bit about it. But this has helped us to develop the 3D printed medical device, especially for orthopedic and maxillofacial device, sort of a digital pipeline to, to get patients coming in from scan image right up to a device. Now, so Shanika did talk to you about the ARC training center, so I will not dive this into it. But I really, these are the partners. We've got industry, hospital, and also university. I'd like you to just visit this website if you can, right? The ARC, CIMIT ARC, cimitarc.edu.au. Now, let's dive straight into our panel objectives. Okay, so the main goal is about establishing a national advanced manufacturing network for personalized implant technology. And of course, we're talking about what's happening in Indonesia specifically. And also, we have a set of objectives. What we want to is to highlight some clinical needs. We have an orthopedic surgeon to share that, discuss the education and workforce. We have somebody from the Ministry of Education. What about something the regulatory pathway, and we have somebody from the Ministry of Health, and of course the R&D aspect of it as well. We have a researcher from the University of Melbourne. Now, let me kickstart. Right. So I'd like to post the you can take the slides away if you want. It's a bit distracting. All right. Yeah. So I'd like to post the first question. Dr. Fazwan, right? If I can ask you, right, we heard your talk, it was really exciting, and you even talk about your strategy and the priority at the Ministry of Education. Now, would you be able to comment a little bit about how you see university prepare? You talk about all those technologies that you experienced from Oxford. In fact, I was really impressed with your talk. I thought you were going to come and talk at a very high level, but I could connect with it because I see research products and things like that. Yeah, so maybe it's a good segue to kickstart the discussion. What do you see Indonesian university need to do to prepare the next generation of researchers and clinicians in digital manufacturing and healthcare? So digital health manufacturing in general.
Yeah. Here. Thank you, Professor Lee. So I think from experience point of view, and then what we see as well aligning to Indonesia, in terms of key strategies align with if I could divide into the vertical strategies and horizontal in a way.
Oh, the mic is not very good. You have another mic?
So let me repeat a little bit on.
Oh.
A little bit, but let's put the horizontal and then the vertical. So the horizontal, it means that we need to start thinking carefully on aligning the upstream and downstream of our activities in university. So upstream mean that the teaching and then research activities, and then the downstream activities means that how we can link up products coming out of universities and then how this can be then adapted or at least linked up with industry investors. But there should be a way that linking this from upstream to downstream. And if I could say that that is the horizontal strategy. So we are going from upstream to downstream. And then on the vertical strategy, it means that we need to get deeper and deeper, which means that we need to build the specialized expert within universities aligned to the vertical one. So this is where I think sometimes universities may not probably having the same language as industry. So we do need to listen to industries and also our, I mean, in this case, I mean, in this particular context is hospitals. What are needed in hospitals? What are needed in the personalized medical? And then we then trace back whether or not we do teach our both students and also researchers in university that I think cutting this as short as possible is one role of universities. So what we often see that university will have its curriculum, which probably built long years ago, but it's not really relevant anymore to what industry needs. And in Indonesia in particular, because we are moving pretty fast in terms of, to my as well surprise, when I return back to Indonesia, is that we are very fast in technology adoption. Maybe much faster than what I saw in the UK, for example, in the digitalization side. But then the curriculum and then the way we teach and then the way we bring technologies to universities may not be as fast as what the industry needs. However, in some universities, they do better in this. So this is a strategy when we combine the horizontal and vertical is what the infusion process. So I think that will be my key answer. I think we do need to improve infusion process in our teaching and our research in universities. Infusions means a lot of interactions as what we do today between hospitals, industries, students. So the more interactions, the better. Would like to support as well through programs. So we do have, I think, a little bit up and down, but okay, try another one. Yeah, so we do have programs to fund mobility. So this also not only with local hospitals or industry, we have a research mobility funding that can fund researchers to go. I mean, this case could be with University of Melbourne, and also we can invite someone from abroad to come to Indonesia as well. So do use this more and more. I think the more interactions we will provide more values, and then by doing so, we understand what need to be aligned within university. So that university will then specifically for digital manufacturing, because this is very fast-moving topic, I think the more aligned with the requirements of digital manufacturing and also what markets would like to see, I think the better university value to the society.
Thank you, Dr. Fazwan Zima. Let's hop on to the user part, right? So the clinical aspect, because the device will be used by a surgeon like Dr. Yogi Prabhavo. So if I were to come and ask you one question, you heard a lot about 3D printed devices. You may even have used it yourself. and you saw the excitements, and you probably have lots of engineers, like Professor Yudan, Professor Sandra knocking at your door and says, "Hey, use this, use this." Now, so what do you see is the clinical gap for patient-specific implant? I mean, is it something that you want, in your practice? Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Firstly, I want to introduce myself. Actually, I am an oncologic orthopedic surgeon.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why this is one of the field. Yeah, I think in Indonesia, we our patient maybe 20 years ago get amputation for or the bone sarcoma in the patient, but on 2010 we start using the name is to how to replace the bone defect after we resect the bone sarcoma using megaprosthesis. Yeah, jadi quite new. I think 2010. Yeah. And after that, we already also train the oncologic orthopedic surgeon. Yeah, and nowadays we have at least 40 all over on Indonesia. Yeah, still very small. But it's one number for the number of the people in Indonesia. So the market is very big, but the doctor is still small number. And in my daily practice, sometimes the bone sarcoma is unpredictable for in terms of sizing and also the extension of the tumor, and the FLAB, the implant is cannot. We still have difficulties to replace with the availability of implants. Most of the implant in Indonesia come from the other country, or maybe the Taiwan and Europe and also China. This is our difficulties in our services. For this topic, I think this is very interesting, personalized medical implant. Actually, I must have several questions for Pak Fauzan and also from the University of Melbourne about this, because Pak Jeffrey already explained to get the license for the implant to distribute in Indonesia need to doing proper clinical study. But this is our difficulties in Indonesia. Not all of the implant in Indonesia get the proper clinical study. So now, one of my question is about the personalized medical implant. Is it, how about the scientific study, for example, biomechanical, and also because the implant is not only the shape, but also the function and the biomechanical, and also the biocompatibility. This is maybe I want to get the message from this panel discussion. And from the market in Indonesia, even in my field, oncologic orthopedic is very big market. At least from the epidemiology study in the world, 5% from the 1 million people get the bone sarcoma. At least Indonesia have 300 million people. At least we maybe more than 1,000 people with bone sarcoma a year in Indonesia. So we need this kind of implant, because the problem in daily practice is we didn't have, as Pak Fauzan said, in UK we cannot order the 3D print implant in Indonesia. not yet. Yeah, maybe I as a surgeon have expectation, hope for the future. We can develop our industry and also the personalized medical specific implant for our patient in Indonesia. Maybe that is my thank you, Professor.
Thanks for that. Here, I think you raised an interesting question, and there's certainly the regulatory aspect that's need to be sorted like in every country. So, for example, in Australia, we have the TGA, and they have been actively regulating the custom devices since 2020, and now it's quite well established. When a company wants to develop a 3D printed devices, they can go through the regulatory process and then decide if their product is a custom device where they can get the doctors to sign off, or whether the device is a patient match device that then you have to go through the ARTG like any off-the-shelf implants. But I think you raised a good question. Perhaps maybe I can jump straight to David to talk about his experience in getting a device from the university research, and now having a company that is spun off, and how this device is being put into patient, and some of these steps that has been taken. Yeah, maybe David, you want to share that a little bit?
Yeah. So, considering the framework, going from an idea through to a device that can be implanted into a person, probably the most critical thing about a device like that is that it's fit for purpose, the efficacy. So that is, if it's implanted in the body, it's going to be able to withstand physiological loading and be biocompatible. So that's the fundamental thing. But also to withstand longevity. It's got to last in the body. Now, to determine whether a device is going to meet those requirements for a personalized device is very, very challenging. You can't go ahead and just do a clinical trial of a bespoke personalized implant. So you've got to look for alternative methods. So there are probably there are a number of ways, but probably two ways that I'd like to mention here that we've used in the past successfully. So when developing an implant to assess its efficacy and function in a joint, we're fortunate that we've been able to develop some quite sophisticated mechanical testing. We're very lucky to have a human anatomy lab where we can actually 3D print and implant devices into cadaveric specimens, and we can then load them mechanically under physiological loading. Now, it could be thousands, tens of thousands of cycles, or it could be just a single load to failure, or it could be motion through the range of motion. But one way is through testing like this to create a device for a cadaveric specimen to apply physiological loading and to measure the response. Now, that's a very specialized approach. These days, people are now moving toward computer modeling, and our Therapeutic Goods Administration, the TGA, is now starting to recognize computer models as a way to evaluate the efficacy of a medical implant. Now, the problem with computer models is that when you're developing a person-specific computer model of a joint, and you want to test a virtual test of an implant in that model, they take an incredibly long time to make. I mean, it could take months to make a detailed musculoskeletal model of a joint, and to do the virtual surgery and to run simulations and to do it with the level of detail that's required to assess efficacy, longevity, and so forth. So the way that we're getting around this is to actually fast track creating a computer model from an image stack. So we are now using AI-driven approaches to take a CT image stack and go straight through to a 3D computer model of the joint. So it could be, let's say, a jaw, or it could be a hip. So create a 3D model straight from the medical images, and then we can automatically assign rules based on the surgeon's preference to virtually implant the device, and then to run simulations. So we can do this over and over and over again for a whole range of different patient geometries from image data sets, and we call this virtual clinical trials. So in the absence of human subjects to implant devices, we can use computer modeling, patient-specific computer modeling, to assess the efficacy of devices. And we're now able to create a simulation to take let's say we take a CT scan of a patient's shoulder, and we can now go through from the image stack through to a computer model and model outputs to assess implant micromotion and load performance. We can do that within a couple of hours. So yeah, this is one of the innovations in computer modeling in silico clinical trials that are allowing us to assess the functional performance of new devices. So yeah, these are the two approaches: sophisticated mechanical testing and in silico clinical trials.
Thanks, David. Yes, this is a really exciting area. One is the technology and the research has been moving and pushing ahead. And the regulatory bodies are starting to say, oh, maybe we should start looking at computer models to do clinical trials, right? So clinical trials in the past has always been going to be really expensive. You're going to put into many patients and then look at efficacy and things like that. But a lot of times we ask questions if you're putting the same type of materials, right? Do you need a clinical trial? So a lot of companies try to justify they don't need that. But then, of course, the other interesting question for personalized devices, the only way to do a trial, a clinical trial, is to put it into the same person that you're designing the implant for. Because that implant doesn't fit anybody else except that patient you're So the only way to do a trial is to put it into the patient, which you don't want to, because you are still uncertain whether it's safe or not safe. So therefore, I think a lot of regulatory bodies are starting to recognize the importance of computation models to do trials, right? Or the N=1 trial. Is it even feasible? So with that, I like to go and look into what the Ministry of Health thinks are the challenges. So Dr. Jeffrey, you gave a really good presentation. You talk about some of the challenges that Indonesia is facing with regards to medical device manufacturing. But I'd like to ask you with respect to personalized implant, 3D printed. Let's say there is a company here in Indonesia. They are designing 3D printed devices. So what do you think are the challenges Indonesia face today in providing access to 3D printed implants? Because we know the technology is going to be pushing the hospitals, the surgeons to use 3D printed devices. So as the Ministry of Health, what do you see are the challenges?
Thank you, Professor. For this question, I'll try to answer with the scheme of with flashback memories in COVID-19 first. In COVID-19, Indonesia realized that Indonesia in medical industry actually at the time 2020 2019 we don't have medical industry produce like ventilators. All ventilators should be imported. In this case, the resilience is very important. So after the COVID-19, Ministry of Health has 6 pillars, and the third pillars is health system resilience. How Ministry of Health can give service to all Indonesian residents to give access to medical device. Medical device is available many types can be produced locally, affordable price. So my ministers, for every Indonesian citizens should have health service in the all hospitals in Indonesia with similar service, not only in Central Java but also in other islands, with affordable prices. How can the medical device can be affordable prices and can be exist and produced locally in Indonesia? So research and development, of course, is number one. Many medical implants comes from innovation and research and development. And then the important things is a transfers of technology transfers from the Australia, maybe from US, UK, and then collaboration give the technology transfers to medical device industry in Indonesia. So the technical of the medical device again can be produced locally. I don't know about the raw material, yeah, but the technology. And we understand that for the medical device, we have a license. So this is important to maintain the patient safety about this license, including the medical device. Yeah. This is the regulatory safeguard for the medical device, including the medical implant. This license should be followed by the clinical trials, of course. Yeah. And after the pass the clinical trials and then get the license. In my department, we have a clinical team of experts to discuss and decide which is medical device is okay or not okay, especially for the class C and D. Yeah. We don't have to proceed clinical trials for medical device in type A and B. I think it's my question. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Jeffrey. We the goal of this discussion is to look at whether is it possible or timely for Indonesia to set up a network, whether it's consisting of industry, academia, or even government to look at patient-specific devices, understanding that there are technology push that is coming, and I'm sure if in the hospital they are being approached, say, oh, we've got 3D printed devices. Say, for example, Dr. Yogi, you're being asked, then you will want to ask some questions. So, should I use it? Should I not use it? What advice? Who is going to give it to me? Is it safe to use it or not safe to? Do I just believe the company? So maybe as a general question to all the panel members, right? We know that in order for this to work, you need collaboration. There's a model for collaboration. So do you think it's going to be a government-led network, or is it a public-private type partnership, or is there, or is it, going to be very much driven by the industry or driven by the academia, in terms of innovation? So what is the sort of grand vision you see? Because we have four people here from different, working in different areas, but all having interest in personalized devices. So what do you think can work here? Yeah.
I might just say something that I think is important, that a personalized medical device will not go anywhere unless there is a clinician that's prepared to put it into somebody. And so, in my opinion, I think the clinician is at the heart of the medical device, the design, the concept, and the problem. Coming from the perspective of an engineer, we have all these tools at our disposal, but at the end of the day, it's our surgical colleagues that come to us with this clinical challenge that we need to overcome, and they present that challenge, and then we can work with them in partnership to produce a solution. And so, yeah, how that solution is produced, that's something else altogether. But I just wanted to reiterate that, I think it starts with the clinical problem.
Yeah.
One thing we learned from what worked and what didn't work in Indonesia, to understand that how we would like to build something when we do have problems, from general point of view first. So in Indonesia, what we did see is a consortium type of research is actually the most effective. This is coming from our investigations of research outputs. A phrase in Indonesia, which is probably not very common, probably very English, direct to gotong royong. So gotong royong, apa ya Pak? Yeah, it's working together in a way, but it is something embedded pretty deeply to the root of our culture. So which means that if someone has an issue or problem, we work together and then try to solve it, sometimes or many times voluntarily. So this is something which we learned a lot since we were kids. And the heart of gotong royong is the heart of consortium, which is the networking in itself. So with that in mind, that we created a program or funding just to build consortium. So even I built a team, specific consortium team, to make sure that we understand how to build a network. And then, but we also learned that each network of a field, they do have slightly different characteristics. So this is then I come to a little bit of detail, and thank you for David for mentioning it, which I agree a lot that we need to centralize a little bit where the problems or the high value problems are coming from. And that will be from the clinicians. So I think we need to bring more and more clinicians. And then the pathology and orthopedic clinicians in Indonesia, I think we have very small number here, just about 30 to 40 out of 280 people. So I think you are in charge of maybe how many million people. So we need to bring them more to the center, and then universities and industries and also government, we can work out on building. Even I'll be interested, or our ministry will be interested to initially fund the consortium. We just need to work out what type of consortium or network, or we could call it national manufacturing network, which also not only for Indonesian community, but also for international community. So I agree, for this specific digital manufacturing or personalized network. Let's build something where clinicians is central to the community or the network, and then if needed, so what we do is try to find some topics of interest which then our researchers could work on, and then we can fund this type of activities, research itself, disseminations of research, and mobility. And then I think by doing that more and more, we may find us a good advanced manufacturing network that we can start to build if there is one yet.
Thanks for that.
Okay. In my point of view, the most important thing of academics, business, regulators, governments, and community is synergy. It should have a synergy between all four parts of academic means university, lectures, researchers, business mean industries, and governments, of course, can be Ministry of Higher Education, Ministry of Health, and other ministries, and also the community. Yeah. I give it an example about the synergy. Many lectures, because before I work in Ministry of Health, I work in polytechnics. Yeah, I was lectures also. So many lectures sometimes do research according to his or her competency, not according to the business, especially in medical device. So this will not meet with the industry needed about the innovation. So should be a synergy between the industry, between the business, and then also the lectures on the researchers. So synergy. And of course, for the governments, what is the focus? What's currently doing by the governments? For example, Ministry of Health right now focus in TB, diagnosis of TB, and then maybe stunting. So the research should come from these issues. So the synergy between the university, between the industry, and the governments. So this is important, and of course the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Maybe, my point is collaboration is a must first. And I note some, I think in Indonesia, we developed, so the name is research-based health services. So I think the 3D print personalized medical implant can follow this research, for health service, because still there is an issue about the safety issue and also the financial issue for the medical 3D print like this. Collaboration between the university, hospital, industries, and also we need covering by the national insurance, BPJS in Indonesia. I don't know, for this kind of implant, our national insurance can cover or not. Like this is also issue in our country, because this is very big insurance, cover more than 200,000 to 100 million people in Indonesia. I think the research-based health services only can doing in the yeah, academic hospital or the university hospital, and every patient that need the personalized medical implant can come to the center to get the services. For example, the oncologic patient and the other field, maybe in the orthopedic. Yeah, as a orthopedic surgeon, for myself, if disease can be realized, it is good news, yeah, for our patient, and maybe for the future we can develop our own implant in our country. Thank you, Professor.
Thanks, yeah. Thanks. Yeah. So I'm gonna spend maybe I'm gonna be eating a little bit into your lunchtime, maybe about 10-15 minutes. But I'd like to open the the time for questions. Please just raise up your hand, grab the mic, and then you can direct the questions to any of the panel members specifically, or you can just as a general questions. We got one there, yeah.
Thank you, Prof. Peter. My name is Basari from Biomedical Engineering, South Indonesia. And I want to know actually about in Indonesian PJT or penanggung jawab teknis, because it is a person who in charge for one of the type of biomedical medical devices when the medical device produced or manufactured and distribute to be a medical devices in Indonesia. So this person is very important person because it's she or he in charge of the device when manufactured in the factory. So I want to know about for personalized medical implant, for example, in my case, because actually my field in electromedics devices actually, so I know about the PJT in PJT in Indonesian language, or person in charge in medical devices, is should be highlight for distribution of medical devices. I want to know to Dr. Jeffrey how about for personalized medical implant of the PJT. What do you think about this? Because this is very special implant. Thank you. This is just my question, not comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Dr. Jeffrey, you want to take this?
Thank you, Pak. I'll check again about the PGT is not needed in the medical device, especially for personalized implant. Yeah, because it is not in my department. It is in department of. I'm sorry. Direktorat Pengawasan ya Pak ya. Ya, di Ditwas. But I understand that PGT is important in terms of production of medical device. Yeah. Why? This is because that we want to make sure that the process in production of medical device should meet with the GMP internationally. So we have license CPAKB, cara pembuatan alat kesehatan yang baik itu kalau kita mau memproduksi, ya, and also CDAKB, ya, cara distribusi alat kesehatan yang baik if we want to distribute as distributors of medical device. I'll check again about the urgency of the PGT in the medical implant, yeah, because again it's not in my I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, up. There's another one there.
Hello, my name is Septian. I'm from medical industry. I want to ask a question for Dr. Jeffrey. Um, uh, we from a manufacturer want to know like how uh, how the preparation of the government for the regulation for the personalized medical implant, because we know right at the moment for the AKD it's quite hard, yeah, to achieve like for the our manufacturer. It's hard because we need to clinical trial and so on, and then how the regulation for the personalized implant. Thank you.
So many questions. from you. Okay, I'll try to answer again with the question. Yeah, I understand that personalized medical implant is very expensive. Yes. Even start from the R&D, yeah, because the cycle of medical device start from R&D and then production and distribution. So R&D and production is two most expensive. I suggest to the industry to keep in touch with the governments. I think there are support from governments, for example, from PRIN, yeah, from PRIN, and maybe you can co collaboration with the university and then can get funds from the Ministry of Higher Education. Yeah. Of course, because this is the medical device that high risk for the patient, so it should have clinical trials and should have a license, of course, yeah. Because every single medical device in Indonesia for patient should have license, AKL or AKT. Yeah. For the AKL, yeah, for the imported, you can just be imported, yeah. But for the personalized medical implant, I think should have a license with the local production. So I understand that the highest money to do the research and production. So you can collaborate with the university and maybe try to find funds from PRINS, for example. Thank you.
Thanks. One of the experience that we have is that in the past we used to think that personalized devices, 3D printed devices are expensive, but the price has actually surprisingly come down a lot. Yeah. So our PhD students, they print a lot of implants for testing in cadaver labs. They're not meant for putting into a human being, but they are printing implants at $100, $200 nowadays, and the cost has really come down quite significantly. So I can foresee that in the past where a lot of cars, aerospace parts can only be mass produced using molding or casting. But I'm sure Dr. Fawzan, you're aware now, there are companies that are printing the entire jet engine now, so this has gone down quite amazingly. Now, I think I have eat into all your lunchtime. but I'm not going to let the panel off so quickly. I just want you to make a really short comment, right, for one question or maybe even two questions I'm going to ask. So I'm going to start with, right at the end, Dr. Yogi. Now, if we are going to succeed, so this question is for all of you, right? Just have a sort of ending remark, what you want to say. Now, if we are to succeed with building this network, what would you think success look like in 5 years' time? Will it change your practice? Will it change, how you see R&D education? Will you see changes, in the way Ministry of Health regulate patient-matched devices? And then, Dave, what do you think success would look like in Indonesia specifically? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think this is very challenging to develop in Indonesia, and I optimize to provide this personalized medical implant 3D print in especially in our field, in my field, in oncology orthopedic. I am waiting for this development, for the future. I think I'm very optimized, and the most important thing is supporting from the Ministry of Health and also the national insurance to cover all of the financial. Thank you.
Well, I wish what will happen is when you see a patient, you take your MRI, you send your MRI somewhere, and then, in 3 days' time, like Amazon, they'll post you an implant that you can put into your patient, right? Yeah, Dr. Faisal?
So just to comment on your last point, Professor Lee, what we did, I mean, in my previous job, we did actually shorten from MRI to delivery from 8 days to 2 days. And a lot of them because of computational driven automations. And then one of which is, and I deeply involved in that, is that we replace as much as testing with computational tasks. The critical part is because of implants is so integrated, as you mentioned, so it's very, in terms of time, it requires a lot of computational time. But we did manage to reduce that by doing some iterations and then doing a number of machine learning things, because number are now more and more can be trained. But indeed, yeah, I think 5 years' time, going back to your point, I think that will be great if we see that in Indonesia. But I also see that in 5 years' time, if we could answer just only to our domestic market, I think that will be great, because this is also the reason why companies outside of Indonesia, including a company which I built, we saw Indonesia as a great potential market. So if we don't look at that by our own, so the network, I think we miss quite a lot. So we do have right problems. We do have as well ecosystem to support solving that problem. We just need to find a way out to make it work, basically. And then the second, I think in 5 years' time, what I would like, or what I'll emphasize, that what we can achieve is be part of global supply chain. So this is also something which I often discuss within the government. This day, we cannot make anything just by one country, almost anything. Of course, certain things. Cars, for example, there is no cars from one country. There's always different route of to make products. So be part of global supply chain, it means that we need to understand on how to be part of that. And one of which is actually through this type of workshop and discussion. For example, with Professor Aklan, for example, and then his company might be interested in problems in Bandung Hospital, and then we can also supply problems, and then perhaps affordability of Indonesians also increase at a point that there's some solutions that might be offered by university in Australia, and then perhaps again ISO. One of the difficulties the 13485, which it appears to get, maybe already there in Australia, so we can supply to Australia and then do some clinical trial not by our own. Just to mention as well, in the past when we did clinical trial, we even couldn't do clinical trial in the UK, not only because of the cost was very high, but also with the number of difficulties of regulations. So we did end up clinical trials in Canada. And then for 3-4 months, we checked quality of ship. We used ship at that time. And but still we end up through that network, we get the ISO and they got the clinical trials done, and then the virtual clinical trials, another thing. So the third point that I would like to see as a milestone, that we are good at computational part, because more and more expensive testing, not only in medical, of course as well in automotive, now can be replaced by computational effort, and more of these are becoming open source as well. So there is no reason that we are not good at it. There is a reason now we are good at it by understanding how to, and I think that network will help it. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, I totally agree with Farzan, and I think in 5 years' time, you know, it'd be wonderful to see this consortium of the key stakeholders, you know, the clinicians, university, manufacturer, government regulators, you know, all linked together, networked together, to create this pipeline to go from these ideas through to a medical device that's approved, regulated, and can go and can be implanted into a person. But I'd just like to say one point, and I don't think you should underestimate the importance of proximity with clinicians. So whether it's industry or universities, you know, it's so important to have those conversations, to have the dialogue, to have a clinician come to the university, sit down with engineers, and you know, to work on a design, or for a PhD student or a postdoc or an academic to go to the hospital and have a conversation with the clinician. You know, there's a wonderful model, the Valgris campus in Zurich in Switzerland, where they have a hospital right next to a research center. And it's just a 20-meter walk for a clinician to go and talk to an engineer. And it's a real incubator for ideas and spin-outs. And I think in the future, you know, there's going to be a lot of value in engineers, in industry, working very closely with clinicians and facilitating a proximity through, you know, meetings, working with each other in, you know, in different locations.
The last step.
Yes, you're the last man.
To be success, it is important to explore global network and connection, I think. Yeah. We understand that many philanthropies can support for the clinical trials. Yeah. Looks like clinical trials for TB vaccines funded by Bill and Melinda Gates, yeah, because it's very expensive. So if we don't have a global connection, I think we don't have the future to continue the process, the clinical trials. Yeah. And then second thing important also is consultative. Yeah, consultative start from R&D and until production and taking the license. R&D, you can consult to the university, to the BRIN, to the Ministry of Industry, Ministry of Health, yeah. And how about consultative to the TKDN, yeah, TKDN, if we want to calculate how the local component of the medical implant, personalized medical implant. Yeah, for example, like that. Yeah, and consultative to production. Yeah, to with the Directorate of Pharmaceutical and Medical Device. Yeah, from many things, regulacy for the license to CPAKP, CDAKP, etc. So strengthen the global network connection and consultative. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Right. Thank you everybody for your participation. There's a lot of exciting opportunities here. Right. Thank you. All right. I think we are ready for lunch. But I would encourage, especially a lot of you here, to start thinking about proposals. Proposals for the network. Right. Thank you.
Recording stopped.